The following is a paid advertisement of St. Anthony Hospital Orthopedics. References to any specific product, services, or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by St. Anthony Hospital, Carroll Broadcasting, or its advertisers. The views expressed by the host or guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. Welcome to the St. Anthony Hospital Orthopedic Show with Dr. Richard Godding. Dr. Godding specializes in joint preservation, reconstruction, and replacement surgery, and brings over 25 years of orthopedic excellence to St. Anthony Hospital and to the Carroll area. For more information about Dr. Godding, his practice, or St. Anthony Orthopedics, go to santanthonyhospital.org or make an appointment by calling 712-794-5536.
Good Sunday morning, Iowa. It's Dr. Rick Godding. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with me here today. And I haven't talked a lot about football this year, and mostly because my Oklahoma State Cowboys are now 0-6 in the Big 12. It's the worst implosion of a year I've ever seen. It's one of the worst years I've ever seen. And we had a guy who was supposed to be a Heisman candidate who's averaging 50 yards a game. And we have the same offensive line from last year. I don't know. So I have directed my attention more locally to football. And, of course, heartbreaker for the Cyclones. I did not watch the game because I was at Kinnick for the first time, actually. And I will say this. Watching the Iowa fans cheer against Iowa State, or cheer for Texas Tech, that is, I liked that because I like that it's a rivalry. I mean, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State were like that. Not so much anymore because Oklahoma has moved over to the SEC where they continue to get beaten down, which doesn't bother me a little bit, not any little bit. Of course, I have nothing to stand on because Oklahoma State's no good. But it's nice to have a grudge in-state rivalry, and I'm glad that it's still going on between Iowa and Iowa State, even though they're in the different leagues and all that expansion stuff, because I think it's good. I think it's good for the sport to have those local in-state rivalries, and it makes it fun. It makes it more interesting. I would rather watch LSU, Alabama. Well, of course, they're huge. I would rather watch, let's say, USC, UCLA, even though I don't care about those two schools, or the Pac-12, I guess Pac-12's the Big Ten, rather than watch Rutgers play Indiana. It's just like, why is Rutgers playing Indiana? But it's all money nowadays. I recognize that. But my report on my first trip to Kinnick. Now, I have been to a few Iowa State games. I've been, of course, to Oklahoma State games. I've been to games at University of Oklahoma. I've been at the University of Colorado. And it's interesting because they're all fun in their own different ways. I really enjoyed Kinnick. It's very loud. It was a night game, obviously. And it was just a great, fun time. I went. So my daughter is a junior. My oldest daughter is a junior. And she is, looking around for colleges. And, of course, Daddy would love for her to stay home and go to Iowa, although she's kind of looking at Missouri, which isn't bad either because it's very close. It's only about 3 hours. But I would love for her to be able to drive home whenever she wants. I mean, when I went to Oklahoma State, I really enjoyed, it was about the same, an hour and a half home. And I would go home, and sometimes I'd just go home because I felt like being home. Sometimes I'd go home and meet up with my friends from high school who were in town from their different colleges. And sometimes I would go meet my grandparents for lunch. Sometimes they lived a little bit closer. My grandma now is still living in the same house that she bought with my grandfather, I think 60 years ago. She is 97. And, we're going to go down there for Thanksgiving with the girls and everything. But I don't know, there's something about going to your home state school that's good and fun. And, then I went to medical school in Georgetown in Washington, D.C., and that, kind of blew open the world for me as far as, the possibilities of where I could live. And then I lived all over the place, Australia, Hawaii. So I just think that it's nice that we have a couple of good schools in the state here that are relatively, in the grand scheme of things, affordable. And I think it's just nice. And I'm thankful for those kind of things, especially, you don't really pay a lot of attention to them until it's time, and it's almost time for my daughter. And then my youngest is a freshman, so we're rounding the first half of the year here, I guess. So she's 3.5 years from going, and then everything is different. It's wild when you think about how quickly things have gone. But Kinnick, like I said, it's a great, I can't say that any particular stadium is better or the atmosphere is better. They're all very different, the ones that I've been to. Now, Oklahoma State, when I was in school there, they had a terrible stadium before they built Boone Pickens. It was terrible. But obviously, the Wave at Kinnick is the coolest tradition in all of sports, not even in all college sports. I mean, I don't know any other team that turns around and waves to kids at the cancer hospital. I mean, that's just pretty amazing, cool. And, you're looking up there and there's kids up there waving back. It's very, very, very cool. And so I really enjoyed it. We tailgated. We went up early. We made grilled cheese and hot dogs for the girls. And one of the girls who had graduated from the school my daughter goes to took them over to her apartment and kind of walked around campus a little bit. And, they got a little bit of a glimpse. So that was all fun. It was all good stuff. But it does, obviously, when you do the Wave and you think about the kids up there with cancer, it's definitely grounding for you, because it definitely makes you thankful for if your kids are healthy, and then makes you empathic and feel just blessed that way. And if kids are not healthy, then we definitely would offer up prayers for them and know that they have excellent, top-notch care over there at the University of Iowa Hospital, especially for that kind of stuff. It's relatively well known for cancer, and specifically kids with cancer. So it's great to have that resource in the state. And my dad died of a bone cancer. Well, my dad had a bone cancer that ran him down, and when it returned, he was so physically dilapidated that he got a very aggressive type of skin cancer that typically only occurs in people who have a reduced immune system. And then he actually passed from that. And that's been 4 years now, which is amazing. Again, the passage of time is crazy as far as the relative nature of it. But bone cancer itself is relatively very, very rare. If you are an adult and you have cancer in your bones, it's almost certain to have started somewhere else. Breast, lung, thyroid, kidney, and prostate cancer all metastasize to the bone. What that means is they go from the primary organ to the bone. And in the sphere of an orthopedic surgeon, if I see somebody who's an adult and has something in the bone that looks like cancer, it's typically going to be something that is eating away at the bone, because most of those cancers are going to eat away at the bone. And my role would only ever be, typically what would happen, the way I see a cancer patient, is they're referred to me because they have a lesion in a bone, and they're afraid that, it's identified, and they know, okay, this patient has cancer, this patient has, liver or whatever, breast cancer. It has gone to the bone, and the bone looks like it could fail, meaning fracture. So you'll have the femur, which is the thigh bone. If you have a lesion on the x-ray, which is basically looks sort of like eaten away bone, sometimes we'll put a rod in that lesion before it breaks so that the patient can continue to walk around, and regardless really of what their prognosis is, we don't want them to have a femur fracture. So as a non-cancer orthopedic surgeon, there are cancer specialists in orthopedics. The guy who took care of my dad, now my dad had a primary cancer of the cartilage, but we consider that kind of a primary bone cancer because the cartilage is just the end of the bone. It was very, very rare. It was called a chondrosarcoma, which means cartilage sarcoma, and a sarcoma is a specific type of cancer. And his chondrosarcoma was in his acetabulum, which is the socket of the hip. And so, he just happened to be in Denver, where one of probably 3 surgeons in America could have done, maybe 4 surgeons in America could have appropriately done the surgery he needed. And it just so happened that one was right there in Denver. And he went and they basically took out almost half of his pelvis and they reconstructed it with this stuff called trabecular metal. Trabecula is the pattern within the bone. So the bone has the cortex, which is the hard. Like if you take a chicken bone, if you break open a chicken bone, the outer ring is the cortex, and inside is the trabecular bone. And so you see this pattern, and that's what this metal was made of. And so they put a new hip in with him. And then, probably 5 to 7 years later, it came back, and then he just continued to deteriorate. But yeah, it's very rare to have a primary cancer of bone in an adult. And the ones that are considered primary cancers of bones are lymphoma and leukemia that you can get in adults. Leukemia is a little bit more children. Lymphoma is more adults. And then there's multiple myeloma, which is exclusively adults. So, I was talking about the cancer center I thought I'd give, and never really talked about bone and joint cancer on this show because it's really not that common. It's not something that I treat primarily. Like I said, I would be involved in only sort of managing potential fractures or fractures that have actually already happened through a tumor or a metastasis. And so I would tell you that the people that work, especially the doctors and nurses and everybody, the techs, everybody that works with people with cancer really are a special set of people. And then, of course, working with the kids with cancer, that takes a real special set of people. And we just really very thankful that they're all up there doing that and that we have good treatment for that here in Iowa. And when I originally decided to go to medical school, it's interesting because I wanted to be an investment banker. And before that, I had wanted to be a surgeon. And then I kind of went for a while that I wanted to be an investment banker. And the reason for that is, Mom and I didn't have much money, and I knew that investment bankers, you go off to Wall Street, you make some money, and it's all good. But I saw that movie, Wall Street, the original one that came out in 1989, and I was a freshman in college, and I was going to go, my plan was go to University of Pennsylvania for my MBA after my undergrad and all this stuff. I had all these big plans. And when that movie came out, it was interesting because Martin Sheen was the dad, and he was a mechanic for an airline. And Charlie Sheen was the investment banker, and he was going to take over the airline and take the pensions away and put them in his pocket, which is exactly what happened to my dad. So United Airlines he flew for, and they lost their pensions in a bankruptcy. But the people that put that deal together all got really rich. So did the CEO. So I said, I don't want to have any part of that. I'm going to go back to being a doctor. And so I had read an article in Reader's Digest, and I remember it. A kid fell out of a tree and he impaled himself on a pole, and it kind of went up through his groin and out his neck. And the description of how they saved him made me want to do that kind of work. But one has to be realistic. And that's what I wanted to do when I was in medical school until I saw a kid actually die. And I said, I don't have it in me to have that be what I'm doing. And it's, like I said, all kudos to the people that are doing that, because that, if I wanted to be a pediatric trauma surgeon, and then, and through my 4th year of medical school and in my general surgery internship, I saw a few kids die, and a lot of kids have really bad bad injuries who almost died and weren't going to be right. And I really, it was fulfilling to take part in that, but it just, some people are built different, and I couldn't do it. I wanted to, and that's really kind of why I went into orthopedics, because orthopedics, 90% or better of your patients are coming to you in a bad situation and getting much, much better. And it's just I think maybe for me, just a happier specialty, a specialty that allows me to, things happen, obviously, in surgery, almost, all kinds of things can happen, but on the day-to-day, 98% of everything works pretty smoothly, and the patients are happy, and they came in with a problem and you fixed it, and that's great. You get long-term relationships with some patients. Like I have patients who I've done 4 or 5 operations on over the course of 8 years, 10 years, depending on where I was. Here this is my 9th year here, so I definitely have patients that come up to me here in Carroll that I've operated on since I got here from back in the very early days before I was here in Carroll. And so that's nice. I like those relationships, but it's also nice just to get somebody, you get them back on their feet, and you just know they're doing well, and you say goodbye. And so, I don't know. That's why I chose to be an orthopedic surgeon. I like the mechanical aspect of it. I like the surgeries themselves. I like the fact that most people are doing very well. I mean, we still, here in Carroll, we don't see big trauma. Like if someone gets hit by a truck, they're not coming to Carroll. They're going to get in the helicopter, and they're going to go to the level 1 trauma center. So I see a lot of sort of elderly falls and, maybe kids with broken arms and things. I'm more than happy to take care of all that stuff. And that part is fun because you really, you can get them back to what they're doing. But yeah, to be the level 1 trauma center downtown, that was just, I thought it sounded really cool, and it does, and it is, but at the same time, you just have to, I guess I'm just a softie or something. I don't know. I couldn't do that kind of stuff, but I don't have to, and I'm happy to give people new knees, new shoulders, or fix up their shoulders or knees or their broken bones, and that does make me happy, and it is a nice thing. So, but yep, so we're cruising through. Football season is starting to come to a close. It's starting to get Thanksgiving. I'm going to go down Thanksgiving and see my grandma and my mom, and probably my aunts and uncles, and give the girls some more family time, and I hope everybody is gearing up and getting ready to have a wonderful Thanksgiving. There's still time to make plans, and if you don't have family around, there's probably churches, there's all kinds of different places that you can go that are going to have sort of communal meals. So I do love Thanksgiving. I love the idea that we're just, as a nation, sitting down at the table and being thankful for all the blessings we have. Because if you don't think we're blessed in this nation, you need to go travel and figure out just how blessed we are. And of course, by the time you hear this, there will be a new president. I don't know who it will be. I pray that whoever it is does a very good job, and that the country can come together and heal and move forward and make us a better place for our kids. So that's the show for today, and I appreciate you spending some time with me, and you have a blessed week, Iowa.
This has been the St. Anthony Hospital Orthopedic Show with Dr. Richard Godding. For more information about Dr. Godding, his practice, or St. Anthony Hospital Orthopedics, go to www.santanthonyhospital.org or make an appointment by calling 712-794-5536.